Welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Deadly Podcast of Kung Fu, brought to you by the Villains Man, where I, Justin Raymer, traverse the worlds of Marvel's most prolific martial artist in the Iron Fist, Shang-Chi and the White Tiger. If you want to keep with the podcast, you can do so on social media platforms, Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. And if you want to keep up with me, Justin Raymer, and my upcoming comic book, California Cannibal, please do so over on Instagram, Twitter X, and Blue Sky. So today, it's main event time. I've been building and buttering you up with all this Lin Lee content, trying to push out everything I can with him in regards to him becoming the Iron Fist. We have recently covered the undead Iron Fist, and this is what apparently it's all accumulating to, which is the deadly hands of Kun-Lun. Now we're going to be talking about issue 1 today. It dropped here on February 18th, 2026. I don't care about any of the books tied into this because this is the book that we're all excited about. There's a lot to discuss. There's a lot that's good. There's some that's bad. But overall, I was pretty excited. Not a fast read. I was pretty happy about that. But there's a lot to get to, so let's just kind of jump into everything. The title of this issue is called War Song, and your writer is Yifan Jiang. Did not look up how to pronounce that. That is on me. I've had kind of a busy 2 days. Your pencils and inks go to Paco Medina. Your colors goes to CC De La Cruz. Your letters go to Corey Patet, and your editor is Mark Panacea. As you can tell, he's been tied to a lot of this Lin Lee stuff that I've covered here recently. The cover is done by Lionel Francis Yu and Federico Beli. We see our Iron Fist. Should we stop just saying Iron Fist, even though Danny's now Ghost Fist? To us, he's still an Iron Fist. Pei is, to us, still an Iron Fist. And then, well, we have Lin Lee. He is an Iron Fist. Like, why can we just not have a book with all three of them running around together all the time? That's what we need after this. Leo Chiola has another cover featuring Danny with the energy form of his dragon behind him. They're doing multiple covers like this. We have seen a White Tiger one. We have the Electra one. Man, yeah, I can't wait to see what the rest of these look like. And then the first, I should say maybe the second cover we actually seen for the series is done by the legendary Adam Kubert, which features all the four main characters with Lin Fong in the background in his Chi Yu Crimson armor. All great covers. Got them all. I've ordered the 2 variants that my shop doesn't carry. Great covers. Can't wait to see what other covers we're getting beside these covers. Marvel, if you're listening, getting from Marvel, please bring in Kevin Eastman to do more Iron Fist variants. He did one for the 50th anniversary. He did one for Undead Iron Fist. I would love to see him do one here. It doesn't have to be Danny. He's had his time with Danny. I will take one with Lin Lee. I will take one with Pei. I would love to see him do another cover. Just saying. Let's go ahead and dive into the story. On his conquest to take the power of Chi Yu, Lin Fong leads Steel Serpent and Neon Dragon on a path of slaughter through the 7 capital cities of heaven. They leave all the immortal weapons slain save for the new Tiger's beautiful daughter, who becomes mentally enslaved to the Dark Destroyer's will. With all the cities laid to ruin, Fong has still not found the third and final spirit orb of Chi Yu. Loki appears and seems confused as to why Fong has attacked all the cities. He informs the God of Stories that the final orb was not in Kun-Lun as he had promised. Despite Loki assuring him that it is there, Fong has his sights set on expanding his search to Earth. Each teases the threat of the other's brother being there, but Fong is not worried about either. In Monterey, California, Iron Fist and White Fox are trying to remove a rampaging octopus from the seaside aquarium without injuring it. From Fu's lab, Pei teases them on their comm links about being on a date as she tries to figure out Lin Lee's puzzle box. While Amy and Lee discuss the friction between him and the young girl over being Iron Fist, they get the octopus back into the ocean and head back to New York City. Upon arriving, Fu has seen the incident on the Daily Bugle's website and is furious that his portal was used. As he explains the dangers to Lee, Pei shows off her model of Kun-Lun to Amy. When White Fox brings up the idea of returning there, Pei goes off on Lee. She reminds him they can't return to Kun-Lun because his brother sealed off the connection. When the most recently murdered Danny Rand is brought up into the argument, the upset Pei throws the puzzle box and storms off. Meanwhile, in the underworld, Danny continues his training with Osiris. Their back and forth over why he was chosen is interrupted by someone hidden in the shadows. Loki steps forth to warn the newly christened Ghost Fist that he has some bad news. Locating a disturbance in Hell's Kitchen, the uneasiness is left in the air between Lee and Pei as he goes off to investigate. On the rooftops, he finds Elektra and White Tiger battling Neon Dragon. When the villain sees Lee, he gets excited and summons demons of Chi-Yu into the battle. After a brief scuffle between the two, Neon Demon teleports back to Lin Fong to report. Informing his master that he has located his brother, Fong orders Davos to gather his army. Using his Dark Force abilities upon a summoning circle, Neon Dragon opens up a gateway above New York City. As Lin Lee senses the gathering energy, the portal opens up with Steel Serpent leading Chi-Yu's War Fist army. So, hope I made that sound good. I kind of cover up some of the stuff that I think is wrong maybe with this book. I don't know. I could be confused about some things. We'll get into those, but I just want to kind of talk about some of the good things here. Lin Lee is an ex-Peter Parker. When it comes to chicks, women, the ladies, like, he has got all kinds of them. So when we first see Lin and Amy, they're both battling this octopus, right? And they don't know that Pei is on the comms. And she realizes just both of them went to go deal with this. Not just Lee. She's bugging him about helping with her homework. No, it's at Hometown Diorama. You were supposed to finish it before your date. And I'm assuming it's Amy. She says, is this a date? You mean you were supposed to? Oh, you're so annoying. They go through, they finish off the octopus. And Lynn is the one that knocks it into the water. And then Amy says, you didn't have to do that, but it's kind of cute. And she, even her fox form, giving you furry tease, I guess. She's got this smirk on her face, like maybe she's a bit smitten with Lee. I don't know. And then before the whole White Fox Doctor Strange issue, he had Mei Mian, who seemed like she was a bit interested in him. Before that, we have Ji Shuang Shuang. So, I mean, like, he's got girls all around him. And that's, could easily be girlfriend material. And here he seems like he might be a little oblivious to it. Or maybe this is, maybe he is into Amy. I don't know. But, he's the next Peter Parker, man. He's got girls all over him. And he's got the worst of luck. And it always gets in the way. But speaking of Lin and Pei, I love the tension that's built up between them in this book over Danny. So when she is showing Amy her diorama of Kun-Lun, which is her hometown while she's in school. She's a high schooler in this, by the way. And I've brought this up with the sliding timeline and how it really messes with stuff like this. Because she definitely does not seem like she's a high schooler in the 50th anniversary because she's still very short. But here it says that she's a high schooler. But we know between Immortal Iron Fist and Danny's birthday, it's only been a year. So, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of leave that at that. She's definitely not that small orphan monk from the Living Weapon anymore. She is a high schooler. So she basically, Amy says, hey, maybe when we can return to Kun-Lun. She's like, we can't, thanks to Junior's evil brother sealing it off forever. I like that she calls him Junior because technically he is her junior in the way of I guess because of being Iron Fist. They kind of go over it. And they kind of go back and forth about this and his brother and how he's corrupted, and Lynn tries not to believe he's corrupted, but he clearly was at the end of the Iron Fist series. I don't know, it's just one of the things that kind of irked me about this. And they're arguing about the puzzle and the gateway, the random gate that Fu has. And she says, and they get to it, she's like, oh my god, you're such a no. Who cares that Danny never would, and then Fu has to get between them. Stop. And then she's like, "You'll never be as good an Iron Fist as Danny was," and she throws the box. And this kind of breaks my heart. And because they're family. And then we kind of get this big monologue from Lee as he's going to Hell's Kitchen. "If I must live up to him, I thought I'll start with looking after Pei. But she's the proud senior. I can't let her think I'm taking pity on her. I have to be mindful." And then we see that she's in bed crying and Amy is trying to console her. "Should be easier now that I'm spending more time here in New York with her and Uncle Fu." Succeeding Danny, Pei was probably the youngest Iron Fist. Then she gave up her chi to save Shao Lao, the immortal dragon that is the source of our chi. She got to call him Gork. They were tight. So back when Danny introduced me to her, Pei attacked me without saying a word. That so reminds me of when Damian Wayne met Nightwing and Tim. She thought by becoming the new Iron Fist, I must have killed Gork. How could I? She can't see why Shao Lao chose me, though. The dragon said there's a reason. Was it because he couldn't allow Pei to risk her life anymore? If so, I'll gladly risk mine. I love this, because Danny's gone. Someone has to look after Pei, which I would have thought maybe Luke would be in that role. Maybe that Danny had the paperwork or anything just kind of drawn up if it's legal that Luke would have got her, but I don't know. Maybe he left her to Fu. But I love this tension between them, and hopefully it's something that is built up throughout the rest of this story. But the one thing that this reminded me of is I hate that we didn't have a whole lot of time as Danny as a father to Pei, because that's when we're really developing him just as, not so much as Iron Fist or as Uncle Danny to Danielle, now he is a father. And we didn't get a whole lot of time of that. And even worse is we did not really have any interaction with him and Lee to build up, a father-son type of relationship, because Lee became the Iron Fist. That book ended. They only met twice in that book. The first issue and the last issue, And then we know it's there because Danny sent him to train with Daredevil in the Painful Lesson story. I've covered that. You can go listen to that. And then there was no interaction between them in the 50th anniversary. And that is literally a 3-year gap between the Iron Fist story and the death of Danny. That they have no interaction. They're not even in a book or anything. And I don't like that. I wish we could have at least got one-shots or something to build that relationship up. Or even to try to build this relationship up with her and Pei, even though we're learning of some of it, in between, you could have probably built a pretty good story up with that, and given us something there. They keep showing us this model of Kun-Lun. There's this giant freaking tower. It's all in black. You can't tell what it is, but they want you to know about it, because they're building it. And Pei is showing everything off to Amy, explaining to everything. And then as her and Lee are arguing, Amy says, "Hey, what's this big tower? Hey, what's this tower for? It's so big." And they show you the scope of this tower compared to the rest of Kun-Lun in this model. They do their arguing. Pei runs off. Fu says, oh look, she did make the tower too big." Lee says, I made that one. Is it not that big? What is this tower? Why is Lee's the one that made it? Why is it so big? Here's kind of what I think. There's some type of connection, and he is seeing the tower in Kun-Lun, maybe in his dreams, or maybe it's trying to, maybe Shao Lao's telling him something, because he's not cut off from Shao Lao's chi, even though they're cut off from Kun-Lun, and he's not slain, because he's still getting the chi, so Shao Lao's tied in this story somehow. And even though we know that Kun-Lun has fallen, maybe the dragon has fled. And that's why he still has his chi. And I think maybe the dragon's giving him visions. But here's what I think this tower is. So we see after the Neon Dragon fight at the end, he goes back. He's in the summoning circle, he's being charged by red chi. and he opens a gateway to Kun-Lun, to New York at the end. And we see this like metal sphere with these points. It's got to be the top of this tower, right? And to me, it's like a Rand gate, because when I seen this on the last page, first thing I thought of is you look at the Living Weapon story, and in issue 10, when the gate is opened and they let the god of fire come through, like it's got very kind of similar design with the points at the top, and that really got me thinking, because I was recently rereading this. So the chi is cut off from Danny, and in this part of the Living Weapon, Sparrow and Fu are talking like, it's all about chi and the flow of chi, and how the dragon like kind of is the chi for everything in Kun-Lun, and how that Danny uses everybody's chi and Gork, because they're all tied in to this building for the one, because he's going to open the gateway and he's going to use all the chi to open up the gate, right? This got me thinking that all this red energy we seeing, is it the chi of Chi-Yu? And it's kind of being used in the same way that we seen there at the end of the Living Weapon to open portals. And I thought, because that's the only thing I can think of that makes any sense. And I think that would be really cool, because we have the War Fist, and obviously they all are going to have this red chi, the chi of Yu, this we see that's what's kind of used to take over Tiger's beautiful daughter, right? So I think we're kind of getting the same concept there. And to me, that's I would believe that this tower that they keep referencing in this model, and what we see at the very end of this book, is a Grand Gate that is being powered with the chi of Chi-Yu and the dark force powers of Neon Dragon, because he's kind of like Cloak from Cloak and Dagger in a way. We've only seen him once in like an Amazing Spider-Man annual 10 some odd years ago, but he kind of has the same powers as what we're understanding. So yeah, I think that's a Rand Gate powered by the Chi-Yu and the dark force abilities of Neon Dragon. So like I said, man, you go through, you read all this in issue 10, and I'll kind of read it. I have some pictures. Any citizen has access to the chi of Kun-Lun, but only an Iron Fist may touch the source of it. Only an Iron Fist can penetrate the heart of Shao-Lao, the heart of the babe dragon. You opened it for me, champ. You did the one thing I can never do, and this is the one talking to Danny. Reverse the chi flow, terror monks, because Danny has summoned all the chi to himself. They use it to open the gate. It courses through us and channels back into the Randall Gate. Activate the portal. Open the door between the living and the dead. Destroy the barriers of heaven and earth, of life and the after. Then he's like, oh, what have you done? So the Rand Gate opens up. He uses all the chi, and it opens a portal from all the people in Gork. And I think we have the same thing here with maybe the spirit orbs of Chi-Yu, or however Lin Fong is harnessing the magic. I think we're getting the same process here. One thing I brought up with the preview pages that we got, and we see in the background, what is Fu building? When Fu is chastising Lin Li over using the Rand Gate to travel around the country, we see some schematics of some big green hulking robot in the background. Would not be surprised if that shows up. So, we have one page of Danny Rand. There is one glaring thing that stands out. And this is where he's got his hands out to kind of show about his training, but it's almost like he's presenting the banner, which is halfway there. Why is it halfway still there? If you go through the final issue of Undead Iron Fist, so when he's fighting the possessed Luke Cage, the banner is burned up into the neck and the chin of the dragon. As he's fighting the Chi-Yu in its form, it burns a little higher, and at the end, when they're at Danny's grave, Luke and the Gravediggers, we see that banner is completely burned, save for a couple of small threads. So, maybe it regrows. Maybe it's just got these mystical properties, and it can it's almost like a chi restore, because we know that, the chi can be restored. I'm not really sure. But I went back through, Omar had posted some stuff on his Iron Fist page back on his blog. This would be probably a little over a week ago by the time this gets released. And he had wrote that undead Jason writer Jason Liu replied to a fellow Iron Fist fan who chose to remain anonymous and offered insight into some of our most pressing questions about Danny Rand were asked. I slightly edited his response to make it flow better. First question. Danny's new chi was bestowed by Osiris, but because it was running out, he had Kun-Lun's in reserve when the timing was right, an element of surprise to both Osiris and Quan Yao Zhu. And now that Rand and the dragon are both in the world, they are a union. Well, we didn't even see the dragon. But, so maybe the banner wasn't supposed to burn as high, or maybe it's, like I said, maybe it's just restoring itself. But that was the first thing I noticed about that page, was that right there. Other than that, not a whole lot to talk about, Danny. Just that one thing. Now let's talk about the things that I have problems with. Lin Fong has 2 spirit orbs. Oh man, the spirit orb thing is completely out of whack. So they're about to kill Fat Cobra. Big shocker there. That whole thing. Whew. More on that here later. Loki says, "Good heaven, Lin Fong. If the throne of Kun-Lun was too small, just get a bigger one. You attacked all the heavenly cities for what exactly? For the last soul orb of Chi Yu. It was not in his tomb in Kun-Lun as you promised. I thought you knew everything, god of stories." Loki replies, "Oh, I wouldn't go that far, but the last orb is in Kun-Lun." And then we go to the next page, and the 2 orbs are floating around Lin Fong. "I'm not accusing you, but we can't bring Chi Yu back with only 2 orbs, can we?" "Alright, fine. Where to next? 8th City? Latveria? Wakanda? Have at it. Your new allies seem capable." "None of those, not yet, but there's a plan to expand first." So, this continues on. During the argument, return to Kun-Lun, Lin's trying to protect his brother, trying to defend him. "Fong's not evil. It's Chi Yu, it has to be. He must have corrupted him somehow." Before Lin Fong stole 2 soul orbs, how did she even know that he stole 2? How does anybody know that they've stole 2? Because they've been cut off from Kun-Lun. Like, how would they even know? Like, did they even... there was no indication in the Iron Fist series that Lin even knew that there was a soul orb in Kun-Lun. Soul orb. Man, they're calling it a soul orb in this book. But it was spirit orbs the entire time. Anyway, it's the same difference. So we have 2. And we know there is one in this puzzle box that Pei throws. Lin's not told anybody about that yet. Because last thing we knew, the first orb that Lin Fong talks about, that Lin Li was told about by Ji Shuang is in this puzzle box. And as far as we know, he was the last one with it at the end of Swordmaster. We don't know where it went, but here it is. So he's obviously had it. So let's go ahead and jump back into Shattered Sword number 5 for Iron Fist, because it seems to be very important to this book right now. So they're in the Nuon Temple in some cleverly hidden spot underneath it that holds the soul orb of Chi Yu. And this one is huge compared to the one we see in Swordmaster. Fong tells him as he's holding it, "The essence of a god, a little piece of Chi Yu the Dark Destroyer. 1 of 3 to be exact. I saw one just like it years ago when Dad and I were excavating Chi Yu's first tomb." So, based on what he tells us here, that I fell and the abyss swallowed me up after the energy thing of Chi Yu broke free with the sword. He fell into the ground. His dad, by what I assume, because this is what's all happening, took the orb, made the puzzle box out of the chains that held down the skull in the tomb. Really cool. Go read that. I think it's like issue 4 where you learn about the puzzle box and what it's made out of. So he does not know that Lin has this one, right? So that's Lin's secret. So that's why we know that there was 2. And then the very end of this book, as him and Loki are in Kun-Lun, he tells Loki, the 3rd and final tomb of Chi-Yu is here in Kun-Lun, and I will raise this whole city to find it. So, we know that he had one. He took it from the Nuon headquarters. Lin has one in the puzzle box at the end of Iron Fist's Shattered Sword. All of a sudden, he's got 2. Lin Fong has 2. But one is not in Kun-Lun, according to him. So, how did he get 2? Because he had one, and the 3rd one he thought was in Kun-Lun. But he's got 2, and he keeps saying it's not there. Loki keeps saying it's there. But we know that the other one is in this puzzle box that Lin Fong has, that Pei is seen here throwing around. Like, I am so freaking confused. Now, is Loki, like, got an illusionary orb that feels real or, can fool Lin Fong? But I would assume that Lin Fong would be able to sense its power, because if he's getting power from Chi-Yu, and Loki keeps mentioning that, like, Chi-Yu is whispering in his ears, and even if you go back to Shattered Sword number 5, he talks about Chi-Yu whispering in his ears while he was buried after the tomb exploded. Like, Lin Fong would know that's a fake, right? So where did this mysterious second orb just come from? Because I get Loki saying that, I assure you that 3rd orb is in Kun-Lun, because I think that what he's referring to is, Lin Li is part of Kun-Lun. Like, I'm certain that might be what he's referencing to, but where did they get the second orb all of a sudden? If it was the 3rd one was there. So, I'm confused, because he gets 1 orb at the end of issue 5 of Shattered Sword. He goes to Kun-Lun to find the 3rd orb. Lee, at the end of that book, we know has that orb somewhere in the puzzle box. Don't know where. But now, he has 2 orbs. Lin Fong does. So you assume when you see them that he got it from Kun-Lun, but it's not there. That's why he's rampaging through the 7 capital heavenly cities and all this other good jazz. So I'm very confused where this orb come from. If he's got one at the end of Shattered Sword, Lee's got one at the end of Swordmaster that we've not seen until this issue of Deadly Hands of Kun-Lun. Like, where did it come from? I am so confused on what is going on with these soul orbs. And on top of that, where's the scabbard to the sword of Fushi? That was such a big thing in Iron Fist Shattered Sword that, like, he's not even carrying it around with him. And I get, hey, it could be under some of his armor. He could have it in a little pocket dimension that he can just pull it from, but where's that at? That was such a big deal in that book. That was such a big thing for Lin Fong that he was just waving it around, but it has nothing to do with this issue at all. So, I don't know. Mysteries. Like, I don't know if there's some confusion with editing or the story or what, but, like, to me, this just absolutely makes no sense. How Lin Fong has 2, but there's not one in Kun-Lun. But he went to Kun-Lun to get one, but Lin Fong has one in the spirit box. Or the puzzle box, or whatever it is. Like, I am so confused. Let's talk about these immortal weapons. This book opens up and is a complete mind fuck. Oh, man. I don't think anybody's seen the death of the immortal weapons. Davos kills the bride. This is how the book opens up. It's very shocking. She's probably used second most to Fat Cobra, and I keep talking about how these two are so popular, and they kill them both off within a matter of pages. Like in the opening. I was just blew my mind. I was like, whoa, did not expect this. And then we see a page that is kind of like, gives us the Undercity, Zengambo, and Kunzi. But we don't see any death of any of the immortal weapons there. Now we know that the Undercity is ruled by Dog Brother, we know that Zangambo, he is the champion, is the Prince of Warpins. I know I said Rule. And then Kunzi is the Crane champion, which should be Davos. So, I think that Davos should have been seen in the Kunzi panel instead of Neon Dragon for good reasons, because we know that at the end of this book, we know Neon Dragon killed Prince of Orphans there. And he said, "Where were you when I drowned the Prince of Orphans in my abyss?" That's the whole reason that they brought Neon Dragon in this book. Had to be, because his powers pretty good counter for the Prince of Orphans, considering he can access the Dark Dimension, probably teleported him there and left him there. He could still be alive. Who knows? But we really don't know. He just said that he drowned him there. Hold up, before I even go on. Like, I don't even understand how Neon Dragon met Lin Fong. I don't even know how he is in Kun-Lun. I mean, I'm assuming maybe he met Davos, and they both went to Kun-Lun together, because, like, the one issue that he is in Amazing Spider-Man, like, he is a top henchman for Mr. Negative. No association with any of these other bad guys in this book. So that kind of caught me off guard, like, whoa, what is he doing in this book? And how did he get there if the gateways are blocked off? I don't know. But let's go ahead, and then during the Fat Cobra, at his death, we see that Dog Brother had maybe retreated from the Undercity there, to try to help. And then Fat Cobra dies brutally as Davos, Tiger's faithful daughter, and Neon Dragon, like, cut his head off and rip him to shreds. The only character that is left is Tiger's beautiful daughter, who she is new. And we see on the beach, all their warriors are defeated, and they're all standing in front of her. She's on her hands and knees. "You're the new defender of this city, the new immortal weapon." "Yes, sire." And we know that Tiger's beautiful daughter died in the beginning of Heart of the Dragon, which was 2021, so this is about 4 years in the making. "And you won't die defending it like the rest of your fellowship? Why? Because I will die to see our God live." So, I'm not really sure what's going on here. Like, was she given this amulet of Chi-Yu some other time before they got to Tiger Island? Did she kill all these guards around her? Because the dialogue here, "and you won't die defending it," the dialogue here just kind of makes me think that, like, this had to happen before Lin Fong and them arrived. "And you won't die defending it like the rest of your fellowship? Why?" And then we see her, she's crazed. She's got the pendant, and she says, "Because I will die to see our God live." I don't understand that. Like, so the only thing that would make sense is somehow she got this pendant before they even arrived, and she went crazy and killed them. Maybe she's a sleeper agent for Chi-Yu. Like maybe this is some other person's plan. But yeah, this makes it sound like she had already been involved with Chi-Yu before Lin Fong got there, and that maybe she killed these guards. I'm not really sure. So, a couple days ago, I got this idea. I was kind of looking over some stuff for this issue before it released, and it dawned upon me that there are 7 main characters for this book, right? We have Lin Lee, we have Ava, we have Elektra, we've got Danny, we got Pei, we got Karnak, and we got Amy White Fox. There are 7 immortal weapons. And I thought, man, are these guys going to replace the immortal weapons and, like, to give them something to do? And I hit the Ava Elia account over on Twitter, and I told her, and I told them, I was like, man, there's some things that are bothering me, and one of them is this. This was the other one, because I was like, man, are they going to replace some more weapons? And then I read this book today, and I was like, oh my God, they just killed all of them off. Maybe they are going to do this. I hope that's not the case. It's wild. Like, because some of these characters, hey, yeah, let them be immortal weapons. I would like that, but man, I don't want Karnak. Karnak should have been Shang-Chi. He has more ties in these characters than Karnak. I don't know why Karnak's involved. But, like, I could see more Lin Lee would still be tied to Kun-Lun. He could still be the Iron Fist. We've all talked about online about how Ava Yala, is now with the Tiger God again. She's got the ambulance with the Rebirth one shot, or Reborn one shot, whichever that was called. And how they're like, she's whole again. And how she could easily be this new defender before we even knew we were getting a new Tiger's faithful daughter that was corrupted. Like, we were already talking about that. So maybe that can even happen even more now. So it was like, so where do we see the rest of these people if this happens? Well, to me, Elektra fits the Bride of Nine Spiders. She's a female assassin. If you've ever read the Immortal Weapons miniseries, her story, the very first Bride of Nine Spiders or Queen of Nine Spiders, depending on how you want to read that book, that we see is very Elektra-ish. Like her color scheme and her clothes, it's not all hot goth mommy like current, well, I should say not current Bride of Nine Spiders, she just died. But she has a very Elektra look. I could see that, right? I mean, it makes sense that she would be a Bride of Nine Spiders. Because, I mean, that book proves that you don't have to have the goth look. You could have this red and white clothing on, and I could see that maybe being Elektra. Kun-Lun is Danny. At first I thought maybe that would be Elektra with all the Crane daughters being the assassins, but there was all the dark magic that flows through Kun-Lun. They are into resurrection. Danny's resurrection here has Ghost Fist. The purple chi, he already's got purple chi. So you can kind of correlate that the purple chi is almost associated with death or resurrection based on all of this. Because we know when Davos became Crane champion, he had the purple chi as well, which he still has in this book, oddly enough. So, but anyways, so yeah, I could see that Danny would be the Immortal Weapon champion there. Pei and Pyonglei, where Fat Cobra is from, because in my mind you have the manga trope of little bitty person versus big person. Think Krillin every time there is a tournament in Dragon Ball. Krillin always gets stuck fighting the big person, so you could switch that up with Pei. Zagombo, to me, Karnak could easily replace the Prince of Orphans. There's kind of a similar mentality between both of them, so I could see that. And then the Undercity, which is the home of orphans, White Fox is the last of her kind. She kind of is an orphan, so you could place her there. Just kind of laying that out there. But man, I kid you not. Like, when I read this, I thought, oh my god, they just killed all these immortal weapons. And here I thought that they were going to replace them with these guys. Blew my freaking mind. So, one thing I talked about at the end of the Shattered Sword story is, where has Mei Mian and Yi Yong Yi went? Because I loved both of those characters. Apparently they were back in Kun-Lun, and they've been controlled by Chi Yu and Lin Fong, because they show up at the end of this book with almost energy chi projection. Because, man, I talked about how Yi Yong Yi would make a cool Iron Fist, and, well, he's got some energy here. And I think that it's very strange that those two are not in the War Fist uniforms. Almost like, hey, we're coming after Lee with these two, because he is friends with them. So it's to make a point with them. And I think even when they're jumping down in the last panel, I think one of Yi Yong Yi's buddies is even with them. Let me scroll up now that I think about that to the final page, because it is somewhere in here. I got a lot going on here. Yeah, he's right above him as they're leaping down. He's got the big rice hat that, you know, the Three Thunders from Big Trouble in Little China wears. So one of his buddies is even there. One of his other bigger guys, the big guy, might be here. Well, and we have a girl with a staff too. Could be the chick that was running around with him, even though she was masked. So this poses even a bigger question. How did they get back to Kun-Lun? Because at the very end of Shattered Sword, Sparrow says, we're locked out of Kun-Lun. Mei Mian literally says, we'll find a way back, right, Sparrow UT? It will take time, but we'll find a way to reopen the portal. I'm going to assume that they haven't because of what has been going on in this book. So how in the world did they get back to Kun-Lun? Because Sparrow has not got back to Kun-Lun. She's been in Spider-Boy. So you would assume that she would definitely have been back in Kun-Lun if this is the case. She's got to show up in this book at some point. It only makes sense. So, and to add to that, Fat Cobra and the Bride of Nine Spiders got back to their worlds. No, we know there is I think it's a Valley of the Gate, which is in the Bride of Nine Spiders book. I know it's also in a Wolverine book. Like, we know that connects to that world, but we've also been told that that connects to multiple worlds. But it's like, so there might be other ways, like, so, but if they could return that way, let's just say that the Valley of the Gates, or, yeah, I think that's what it's called, that the Bride of Nine Spiders and Fat Cobra and Mei Mian and Yonggi went that way, so they could also traverse to their other heavenly cities and get back to Kun-Lun. Why didn't everybody just do that? Like, that makes absolutely no sense to me. And if there's a way to explain it, like, I need to see that, because that would mean that why didn't Lee go? Why didn't Danny go? Why didn't Sparrow go with them? Because if the immortal weapons could go, and that we see Mei Mian and Yonggi here, and if they were at Kun-Lun to travel to New York through this gateway, that Neo Dragon? Nah, Neon Dragon. That sounds very druggy when we're talking about Mr. Negative. But yeah, so like, if they're there, like, that makes no sense. And everybody else should have went back. So I'm very confused about all of that. Like, there's a lot of this stuff in this book that absolutely makes no sense to me. And as a fan, it hurts my soul. Like, I like the story. I like what is being built. But there are just parts in the story to me that make no sense based on stuff that we've already got or we've been told. And I hate that. It's not going to stop me from picking up the series. I'm a loyalist. I'm just like that. But, like, I don't know where the confusion comes in, or there's just something they haven't told us yet. My biggest thing is poor Davos can never truly side with Kun-Lun. Resurrected by Crane Mother and the Mortal Iron Fist, joined Hydra, wrong side. Joins the One in the Living Weapon, for the wrong reasons, wrong side. Clearly he's doing it here again. Like, he can never truly side with Kun-Lun. And that was the one thing that I hated. He was finally going to turn a leaf at the end of Immortal Iron Fist. Because Lee Kun, the Thunderer, his father, was a UT. Like, he could have stepped into that role as Thunderer. He could have proved his worth, because that's always been his thing. He wants everybody to see his worth. And he always picks the wrong side. And then we just went back to Formula and Living Weapon. And now we're back to Formula here. Like, I don't think we've seen Davos the Steel Serpent since the Living Weapon that I'm aware of. Like, we know that Pei knocked the living snot out of him, and I don't think he's been around since. You know what? Look, we have the internet. Let's go and look, because in the next page, in the next issue, we know that Davos is going to square off against Lindley. Is no match for him at all. So, alright, let's go. Davos, come on, let's load up. I know, I probably should have had all this together. So, the hand, and more weapons. Let's see here. The Living Weapon. Deadly Hands of Kun-Lun is what's next in his bio. We're going to go to his issues very fast. See if there's anything. Man, 39 appearances. So, yeah, I guarantee he hasn't just by looking at that. So, yeah, last appearance, Iron Fist, Living Weapon number 11, which we seen him, his imprint into a wall. And then this. So, we don't even know what happened to him in between there. He always picks the wrong side. Like, I hate that for that guy. I want to see him do something good. Maybe in the end of this, he'll turn his leaf. And he'll realize that he needs to stand by his city. One thing I want to see in this series. So, if Chiyu, if I'm right, I'm not saying that I am, my theory with, they're using Chiyu to power the Rand Gate, using his chi through everybody else to power a Rand Gate, much like we had the One using the chi of the people of Kun-Lun who are connected to Grok, who is their Grok, the dragon, Shao-Lao, to open that gate. Like, I want to see Chi-Yu and all his Elder Shadow Glory fight Shao-Lao Kaiju style in this book somehow. I would absolutely love that. And that's a big question here. Where is Shao-Lao? Where is he? We know that he's still alive. that I'm aware of. I cannot think of any other time that he has been mentioned that he has died at all in Marvel. And he's still got to be around because we still have the chi of the Iron Fist flowing through Lin Lee. So, like, where is he? What's he doing? Like, why didn't they kill him? So where is he at? Like, that is a big mystery that we need to figure out, because last time we seen him was in Judgment Day, which I just covered, and he was trying to push Lee. Lee got his brand, and because he was pushing Lee to kill him. So yeah, that I'm aware of, he's not been around since then. So, what's Shao Lao doing? Hopefully plotting revenge. Excited for issue 2. A lot of this stuff I hope there's answers for, like especially the spirit orb, soul orb thing. That really bugs me. Everybody that could not return to Kun-Lun at the end of Shattered Sword is apparently there. That bothers me a lot. I don't know if that's like just someone overlooking that, like an editorial mistake. I have no clue. But man, does that drive me crazy. But that'll wrap up this episode of the Deadly Podcast Kung Fu. This is almost an hour. Like, when do I ever record an hour by myself? Like, you could tell, like, there's a lot to talk about, a lot that's bothering me, and a lot that I'm excited for. But if you love the podcast and you want to follow it on social media platforms, you can do so over on Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. If you like my music, check out Rushing Tiger by Kuro over on SoundCloud and YouTube. But most importantly, guys, pick this up at your local comic book shops, support your local comic book shops, and keep reading comics, guys.